a month ago, I sold a car that I said to myself I probably wouldn't ever sell. That car was a Laguna Seca Blue BMW M3. It was the E46 shape, just in case you know what that is. Now that's a car that I wanted to buy ever since it first came out. I was about 15 years old when it did come out, and I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it on Top Gear, I remember seeing it in magazines, and I remember thinking, one day I have to own that car in that colour. And I did. 10 years later, at the age of 25, 26, I had enough money in the bank to go out and justify purchasing the car, which was fantastic. I was delighted, as you can imagine. Now, as I said before, I told myself when I bought it, this is probably a car I'm never going to sell. But about a month ago, I sold it. That left me with a slight predicament. And that slight predicament was that E46 M3 was by far the most practical car that I owned. So, with my sensibilist hat on, I decided to buy something very sensible, very practical, and something I could use every day. Here it is. It's a BMW E90 something 320i. I think it's an E91. I think E90 is the four-door without the estate. E91 is with the estate. E92 is the coupe. E93 is an M3. I could be completely wrong with all that. I don't know. It's a 320i. It's a 2008. It's a 2-litre, 4-cylinder BMW estate. The long and short of it is, it's not a particularly exciting car. Now, when I say it's not a particularly exciting car, what I really mean is it's so boring. For all intents and purposes, it's fine. You know what? It does the job. It's not that slow, but in comparison to an M3, it's extremely slow. I can fit a million things in the boot with the seats folded down, which is brilliant. But I don't really often need to fit a million things in the boot. So it isn't that brilliant. What I did was, I was feeling particularly sensible that day. I went out and bought the very sensible car, and here it is. And after 1 month of ownership, it has to go. And so, there we go. The car is officially for sale. Lots of nice pretty pictures, nice comprehensive description, and what I think is a fairly fair price. So let's see how we get on. Right, I kid you not, just a few hours after putting the thing up for sale, that is my car driving away. Sold. I think that was 3 hours. Is that a record? Must be a record. And I guess that leaves me to find a new car. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm genuinely finding this a little bit harder than I thought I would. I obviously don't want to spend too much more money, too much more? Is that a word? Yeah, too much more money than I'm selling the BMW for. I'm kind of hooked up on this four-wheel drive thing. I don't think I've really owned a four-wheel drive properly, you know, like big 4x4 thing. And you know, it is winter and it's going to be sloshy. I am literally just about to move to the countryside, so it could come in handy. So I think that's me pretty much convinced that I'm going to go for a four-wheel drive car. So four-wheel drive, I want a good sound system. That might sound a bit petty, but do you know what? When you spend a lot of time in a car driving, comforts like good seats and a good sound system are key. So good seats, good sound system, four-wheel drive, something I can drive on long distances without going deaf. Things like the Z3 make that impossible. Right, so comfy, practical, four-wheel drive, sensible for long distances. I already own a four-wheel drive car. I don't need to buy a new car at all. So of course, why didn't I think of this before? Four-wheel drive, exciting, fast, comfortable, suitable for driving long distances without feeling like I've broken my back or wanting to kill myself, this is the perfect solution. This is, of course, my Porsche 911 Turbo X50. Just thought I'd throw that little detail in there. Now, for those of you that don't know, X50, that is a special term that Porsche use when they have released a Porsche Turbo with a 911 Turbo for a bit. They take it in, they take a load of feedback from people that have bought it and from their engineers and from their R&D team, that's research and development team, and basically make one that's a little bit quicker. And this is it. So they call it the X50. What happens is it goes from 414 brake horsepower as a turbo car, and they push it up as standard from the factory to 450 brake horsepower, which is a fairly good jump. Now bear in mind, this is a 2002 car. 450 brake horsepower at that time was fairly quick, and it also meant that it was able to push the car up to a grand total of 191 miles an hour. I'm sure somebody at Porsche told me once that it was the fastest production car you could buy for a very short amount of time. Like, it was a couple of months, it was something trivial. I'm sure somebody on the internet will be able to prove me wrong if that is wrong. But yeah, 191 miles an hour. That's 200 miles an hour really, isn't it? Let's be honest. So this is it. Now, what's the story with it? Basically, the car was for sale, and that's why it was down in a showroom in Kent. But I decided to go and pick it up for two reasons. Firstly, MOT was due, and secondly, it needs a service. Now, there are pros and cons that come with owning fairly expensive old Porsches, and that is that if you do want to sell it, and you want to sell it for good money, the people that are going to buy it want to see full Porsche service histories. So they want to see that every single service in the book is done either by Porsche, that's an ideal situation, or at least a Porsche specialist to say that it's had its yearly service, it's had its yearly check, it's had its oil changed, it's had its spark plugs changed. Regardless, you could be the best mechanic in the world. It doesn't matter. You still need to have that stamp by Porsche to say, I've taken it to Porsche, to their garage, they have seen it, they have checked it, they have changed the oil, they have changed the spark plugs, and everything is fine. I thought this would be the most sensible solution, and let's be honest, it probably is. It means that having sold the 320, I no longer need to worry about getting a daily driver, because this can now be my daily driver. That also means that I now have about £5,000 spare. If I'm not going to buy a daily with that £5,000, what should I buy? Because obviously, I have to buy something. Can't just put the money in the bank, that'd be incredibly boring. Sensible, but boring.